They said I wasn't family. Now that I've inherited $3 million, suddenly they want me back, so I was 12 when my mom remarried. My dad had passed away a few years earlier, and I was still clinging to his memory like a lifeline. Then along came him. My new stepdad smiled a lot in front of my mom, shook my hand firmly, and pretended to care. But behind the scenes, I always felt like an unwelcome guest in my own home. At first, it was subtle things. He'd tell stories about his family and leave me out. When relatives visited, he'd say things like, "These are my kids," pointing to my half-siblings once they were born, and then add my name at the end as an afterthought. My mom noticed I could tell, but she never said a word. Silence became her shield, and I was left carrying the weight of being the outsider. Birthdays made the difference obvious. My siblings got big gifts, parties with their friends, and all the attention in the world. I got a smaller package, a card with less cash, and a quick hug before the spotlight turned back to them. At Christmas, it was the same. I wasn't jealous, I just wanted to feel like I mattered equally. But I didn't. By the time I hit high school, I had stopped expecting fairness. I kept my head down, worked hard, and spent as much time away from home as possible. My friends' families felt more like home than my own did. I knew I wasn't loved the same way, and I stopped fighting for scraps of affection. That realization hurt more than anything. When I was 23, everything became painfully clear. My grandmother, my dad's mom, passed away. She had been one of the few people who made me feel special. I loved her deeply, and I thought she had loved me just as much. I wasn't expecting riches, but I thought maybe she'd leave me something: her necklace, a letter, anything to remember her by. But when the will was read, my name wasn't even mentioned. Not once. The inheritance was divided between my mom, my stepdad, and their 2 kids. I sat in shock, my heart racing, trying to make sense of it. When I asked why, my stepdad smirked. Actually smirked. "Because you're not really part of the family," he said smoothly. "It wouldn't be fair to our kids." My mom just sat there, silent. She didn't defend me, didn't fight for me, didn't even meet my eyes. That silence said more than words ever could. It confirmed what I had always felt deep down, that I was expendable. I left that day with tears burning in my eyes, but I made myself a promise. I would never beg for their approval again. I would build a life without them, no matter how hard it got. They had chosen their family, and I wasn't in it. What none of us knew at the time was that fate had a cruel sense of humor. Because years later, when I inherited $3 million from someone they never even considered, suddenly I was very much family again. And this time, I was the one holding the cards. After being cut out of my grandmother's will, I poured myself into work and survival. I took whatever jobs I could, sometimes juggling 2 or 3 at once. I wasn't wealthy, but I learned resilience. Every dollar I earned was mine, untainted by their favoritism. It was during that time I grew closer to my great-uncle Peter, my dad's older brother. He was quiet, private, and lived 2 states away. We talked occasionally, and unlike my mom and stepdad, he treated me with dignity. No favoritism, no comparisons, just genuine respect. Peter had no kids of his own. He'd been widowed for years, and I think in me, he saw a link to the brother he had loved dearly. I didn't realize it then, but our bond was something he cherished more than I knew. I just thought he enjoyed the company. We would spend summers fishing together, or just sitting on his porch talking about life. He gave me advice when I struggled, and unlike my mom, he actually listened when I spoke. He didn't see me as the leftover kid. He saw me as family. That meant everything. Years passed, and I built a modest life. Nothing flashy, just steady. Then one day I got the call. Uncle Peter had passed away. My heart sank. He had been more of a father figure to me than anyone else. Losing him felt like losing my dad all over again. I traveled for the funeral, expecting grief and nothing more. But a week later I got a call from his lawyer. He asked me to come by. I thought maybe Peter had left me a memento, a watch, a photo, something sentimental. I wasn't prepared for what he told me. When the will was read, my jaw nearly hit the floor. Peter had left me everything. His house, his land, his investments, and his savings. All of it, totaling over $3 million. I sat there in stunned silence, barely able to process what I was hearing. Tears filled my eyes as I realized the truth. He had seen my worth all along, knew what I had endured, how I had been pushed aside by the very people who should have protected me. He wanted me to be secure, to never feel unwanted again. That inheritance wasn't just money, it was validation. For years, I had been told I wasn't real family. Peter had proved otherwise with one final powerful gesture. He gave me a future, and in doing so, gave me closure I never thought I'd have. I moved carefully at first, not telling many people. But secrets don't last long, and when word eventually got out that I had inherited $3 million, guess who came knocking at my door, suddenly remembering that I was family after all? Yep, Mom and Stepdad. It started small. Hey, how are you? Text from my mom after 2 years of silence. No acknowledgement of the hurt, no apologies, just casual, like we'd spoken yesterday. I stared at the screen, almost laughing at the audacity. 2 days later, she followed up with, "We miss you. Family is important." The irony nearly knocked me over. Family was important? Funny that wasn't the message when I was erased from the will and told I didn't count. Then came Stepdad. He left a voicemail with that fake warm tone he always used in public. "Hey buddy, we should catch up soon. Been too long? Let's get the family together." Family, the same word he had weaponized against me years ago. I ignored them at first, letting the silence speak, but they were relentless. My mom sent long texts about starting fresh. Stepdad emailed me links to houses near theirs, as if I'd moved back just because I had money now. Finally, I got a visit. I looked out the window one evening to see their car parked outside. I came to the door all smiles, holding a pie like it was Thanksgiving. I didn't even open it. I just watched through the peephole until they gave up. When I didn't answer, the texts grew more desperate. "We just want to be a family again. We know we made mistakes. The kids miss you." They pulled every manipulative card they could think of, but I wasn't buying it. Friends who knew the history told me to be careful. One even said, "They don't miss you. They miss what's in your bank account." I knew she was right. If Uncle Peter hadn't left me a dime, they wouldn't have sent a single text. What made it worse was the complete lack of accountability. Not once did they acknowledge cutting me out of the will. Not once did they admit calling me not family. They wanted to sweep the past under the rug because it was inconvenient now. Each time they tried, I felt stronger. Years ago, I would have crumbled at the first sign of approval. I saw their sudden affection for what it was, an act, and I wasn't interested in playing the role of their lottery ticket. One night, after yet another round of pleading messages, I poured myself a drink, sat on the couch, and laughed. The same people who had erased me without hesitation were now clawing to pull me back in, all because of money. They had built a family tree with no branch for me. And now, standing in the cold, they were begging for shade under the one they had cut down. Eventually, I decided silence wasn't enough. They weren't going to stop unless I faced them. So, when my mom called for the 10th time in a week, I picked up. My voice was calm, but there was steel behind it. "What do you want?" There was a pause, then her voice broke into a shaky laugh. "Honey, we just want to see you. It's been too long. We miss you." I could practically hear her rehearsed lines. She sounded more like a salesperson than a mother. Stepdad chimed in on speaker. "Yeah, son, we've all made mistakes, but family should stick together. Life's too short to hold grudges." The word son made my stomach churn. He had avoided calling me that for years now. Suddenly I was his pride and joy. I let them talk, their words spilling out in practiced waves. Apologies without specifics. Promises without weight. Nostalgia painted over with a thin coat of desperation. And then I asked the question that cut through the act. "Why now?" They froze. I could hear the air go out of the room on their end. Mom tried to laugh it off. "What do you mean, sweetie?" But I wasn't letting her wriggle away this time. "Why now?" I repeated. "When Grandma died, I was nothing. When you divided her will, I was invisible. When I asked why, you told me I wasn't family. So why suddenly am I family again?" The silence was deafening. Finally, Stepdad cleared his throat. "We were wrong, okay? People make mistakes. But we can move past it. What matters is we're together now." There it was. It's a classic dodge. No accountability, no ownership, just a vague admission wrapped in manipulation. I laughed, not out of humor, but disbelief. "You didn't care about me then. You don't care now. You care about the money." Mom's voice cracked. "That's not true. We love you. We've always loved you." Her words were frantic, but they rang hollow. If love meant exclusion, silence, and cruelty, then their version of love wasn't one I recognized. I told them plainly, "You made your choice years ago. You decided who was family and who wasn't. I've made mine now. I'm done." And then I hung up. My hands shook, but it was the calmest I had ever felt. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in years. Confronting them didn't just shut the door, it locked it. For once, I wasn't the powerless kid begging to be included. I was the one setting the boundaries, and they had no choice but to respect them. Of course, they didn't give up. If anything, my refusals seemed to light a fire under them. Soon their attempts to claw back into my life would get bolder, pettier, and almost laughable. After the confrontation, I thought they might finally back off. I was wrong. Their desperation only grew. What? Texts like "You're breaking your mother's heart," or "The kids cry every night asking why you won't visit." Then came the sudden emergencies. My stepdad claimed he was sick and needed support. My mom messaged that they were struggling with bills. Funny thing was, their Facebook posts showed vacations, new furniture, and dinners out. Not exactly hardship. Relatives began reaching out too. An aunt I hadn't heard from in years called me out of the blue. "Family is family," she scolded. "No matter what, you need to forgive." I asked her if she even knew why I was upset. She didn't. They had spun their version. Their narrative painted me as the ungrateful child who abandoned them. They left out the part about cutting me out of the will and calling me not family. In their story, I was selfish for not sharing what Uncle Peter left me. What made it almost laughable was how transparent it all was. Every apology was conveniently timed after news about my inheritance spread. They didn't care about mending wounds. They cared about mending their bank accounts. I ignored most of it, but part of me burned with anger. Not because they wanted money, people can be greedy, because they thought I'd be stupid enough to fall for it. Did they really believe a few crocodile tears would erase years of cruelty? One weekend, my mom showed up at my door. She stood there holding a photo album, tears streaming down her face. "Look," she said, flipping through baby pictures, "you've always been my son. Don't shut us out." I stared at those photos. Little boy smiling, unaware of the storm coming. It hurt, I won't lie. But then I remembered every time she sat in silence while stepdad erased me. Every time she'd let me feel like a guest in my own home. I told her gently but firmly, pictures don't prove love. Actions do, and your actions told me a long time ago where I stood. She tried to argue, but I closed the door. My hands were steady this time. After that, their tactics shifted to outright entitlement. Stepdad sent me a bold message. "You owe us. We raised you. The least you can do is help your family now." My laugh echoed through the room as I read it. Raised me. He barely tolerated me. What they didn't realize was this. Uncle Peter's gift didn't just change my finances, it changed my perspective. I wasn't the forgotten child anymore. I was the one in control. I was done letting them rewrite history to suit their greed. The turning point came when I realized their persistence wasn't going to end on its own. They had convinced themselves they were entitled to my life, my money, my forgiveness. If I didn't close the door firmly, they'd keep rattling it forever. So, I invited them to meet me at a cafe, a neutral ground, public, no chance for dramatics. When they walked in, they were all smiles, like nothing had ever happened. My mom hugged me tightly. My stepdad clapped me on the back like we were old friends. We sat down, and almost immediately they launched into their pitch. How families should stick together. How money didn't matter, but it could really help us all grow closer. How the kids deserved a better future. The word deserve kept popping up. I let them talk, sipping my coffee slowly. When they finally paused, I leaned forward. "You've said a lot about family today, but family doesn't cut someone out of a will. Family doesn't tell a child they're not real family. You made that choice." My mom's smile faltered. Stepdad shifted in his chair. I continued. "You didn't want me then. Now you want me because of what I have. But here's the truth. You're not my family. Uncle Peter was, and he saw me when you didn't." The words hit harder than I expected. For once, they didn't have a comeback. And Mom's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't let them sway me. I stood, placed cash on the table for my coffee, and said my final piece. This chapter is closed. Don't contact me again. I walked out without looking back. My chest felt heavy, but light at the same time. It was grief and freedom rolled into one. They had taken so much from me, but this time they couldn't take my dignity. In the weeks that followed, the messages slowed, then they stopped altogether. Maybe they realized their manipulation wouldn't work anymore, or maybe they found a new target. Either way, I was free. I used Uncle Peter's gift to build a life he'd be proud of. I invested wisely, bought a modest home, and funded scholarships in his name. His legacy lived on, not in their greed, but in opportunities for others. Sometimes I think back to that little boy staring at his siblings' birthday parties, wondering why he wasn't enough. If I could talk to him now, I'd tell him, you were always enough. They just couldn't see it. And in a way, that's the ultimate victory. Not the money, not shutting them out, but finally realizing my worth had nothing to do with their acceptance. It never did. So when people ask if I regret cutting ties, my answer is simple. You can't lose family that never treated you like family in the first place. If you've made it this far, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.